Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome in to the Season 1 F4 for Next Gen Racing Week 2 at Circuito de Jerez. And a wonderful track layout we have coming up for you today. A slightly smaller driver count. Nevertheless, we're still going to be intrigued by the racing we have coming up here this evening. Obviously, we do have now 10 cars on the grid for today and registered, ready to go. So fingers crossed they'll bring you some good action. Just like we did see last week, there'll be two races, a shorter first sprint and then a 50-minute second race. And that's when things really do space up. But as we saw last time out, the gaps really do come down quite quickly as well. With the clear skies out there today, I'm sure we'll be in for an absolute treat this evening. But let's get right into the action then. We won't dwell on this for too long. As we show you, here we go. So into the qualifying session at the moment. Now one thing is to point out here, obviously there are not many silver cars out on track, so those racing in the silver class more or less have a guaranteed podium now. As you see at the minute, Shane Piggott and Nigel Stock are the two silvers out there at the moment. Then we have Ian Craigle as well, another silver, however not out there currently setting any lap times, but Dan Morey leads away only by a split margin to Rhys Saunders, then Jason Landry, who's currently on your screen at the moment. We've got James Parker just in behind that, and then Shane Piggott, Nigel Stock as well. Those two going to be shoulder to shoulder for this race. Massimo Boni, sorry I mispronounced that name, but P7 there at the moment, and Andreasen P8 with Humberstone rounding off the grid at P9 currently. Obviously, like I said, there are 10 cars signed up for this. There is meant to be a 10th car. However, I don't think the 10th car is going to be setting any lap times right this second. So we'll just wait and see what happens as we enter the last couple of minutes of the qualifying session this evening. There is plenty of racing up and coming here tonight. See, quickest lap time set there by this car on your screen. James Parker being the quickest racer out there this evening. Obviously, we are missing a probably a good 10 or so names from round 1. Fingers crossed we'll see them again for the third round of this season. There's your P2 Rhys Saunders. And just behind him is Glenn Humberstone, who we did see very briefly on the corner of your screens. Did slow up quite a considerable amount to slot in behind the P20. Sorry, the P20 number 20 car. It's currently sitting P1. See if you can get a bit of a draft to get a good lap in, and hopefully move up that time and tire from P8. So now down into the last minute of the qualifying session with some quick lap times coming in. Dan Morey setting his personal best. Not the quickest lap time of the session, but it's his personal best so far of the session. We did see Morey up there not too long ago, so that shows you how quickly these things can change. But even though there's not going to be many cars on the grid, they're all very, very close together indeed. So the only gaps that will be formed this evening will be from any drastic mistakes, to be honest. So keep our eyes peeled and see what happens in the race coming up in just a few moments. And there is the end of qualifying. So what we'll do is we'll bring you your grid here in just a second when it pops up, comes through to our database. There it goes. And James Parker is P1 with Dan Mori P2. Then we've got Rhys Saunders P3, Jason Landry P4, Shane Piggott P5, Nigel Stott P6. Then we've got Massimo Boni P7, Mikel Andreasen P8, Glenn Humberstone in P9 and Ian Craigle in P10. Now remember, Craigle didn't set any lap times during that qualifying session. Hopefully we will have him on board with us. Let's see, we've got the cars there lined up on the grid ready to go. Just waiting on the back two now. And that'll be Glenn Humberstone and Ian Craigle. As we wait for the lights now to get up and get us underway. See, we are just missing that rear right car on your screens, and that is Ian Craigle, P10 position. See the revs now getting up, so you know the lights are getting ready. In fact, they misled me. I think a few of them revved at once and it sounded like the lights were going, but see, that's the one unfortunate thing. We don't have a good view of the lights, and that's a jump start there in the background. You can see the slight roll forward, and for the 81 as well. So 2 in the left hand side of your screen, jump start, so the 21 will end up jumping those quite quickly, and that's the 133 Shane Piggott, who had the poor start there, and Bonnie as well, as we see the race for the lead heating up already as Maury and Parker go side by side through turn 1 and now turn 2 between Parker and Saunders, who Saunders takes the inside line there all over the blue stuff and the curbs, and manages to stick out in that P2 spot. Car number 5 just in behind, obviously looking at the podium spots. And then we have, at the moment, 133 Shane Piggott here in the background. Now remember, Ian Craigle out of the session at the moment, not on track, so possibly someone that joined the session and he's not actually racing, potentially just watching, or not made it at all. As we see the 133 and 81, the two cars that got the jump start there. And it did feel like the cars were waiting for a second or two longer than normal, I have to admit, just from what we could see, but these two find themselves at the back of the grid at the moment, and I'm sure probably will have some form of penalty or black flag to adhere to. Shane Piggott being one of those silver drivers. A minute, car number 4, Dan Maury, leads the way at the moment in P1. Then we've got P2 for Rhys Saunders, Jason Landry with all kinds of pressure in behind in P3. Car number 20 of James Parker looks up the inside and gets that inside line nailed, and finds himself up one position, but under the attack straight away from car number 5 of Landry. But Andreasen again takes the advantage there, goes up the inside line and gains a position there, so a fantastic move for him. Now here we go, so we've got Bonnie and Piggott serving their pit stops, their penalties, and it looks like Shane Piggott possibly got jumped in the pits or during that penalty stop. As Nigel Stock, P6 overall, car number 130, looking up the inside line there. Has he got it on the number 5? He does have his nose up the inside. Wonderful move there, holds the inside line, and it's going to end up 3 wide on the exit with the 69 car, Mikael Andreasen, sort of hovering about just in front of this battle at the moment. The 130 on the outside line of the number 5. And still maintaining that outside line, and great momentum going through that turn there as well, so that's going to give him the advantage, and he's more than a calf's length ahead as well. So the 130 is now going to look at the 69 of Mikael Andreasen. This battle is technically for the rear end of the pack, however it's still good points because remember, we don't have as many drivers out there tonight, so everyone's going to be scoring decent points of some sort. As we see the number 5 going for the move up the inside line, 130 has knocked down a peg. That's Nigel Stock being moved down to P6. Jason Landry pushing up, showing what Canada is made of. As now car number 5 sitting P5. Now, I wouldn't say holding up this group of 3, but he's now in control of the pace, really. But just as I say that, he's sort of catching up onto the rear end of Mikael Andreasen. And, well, Mikael, it's on your shoulders to hold off these guys behind. But Mikael really needs to be sort of trying to get his foot down as much as possible to have a sniff at that podium. We are only 4 minutes into the 20, but nevertheless, it's going to be a tough battle right until the very end, as we see 2 side-by-sides there, 5 going up the inside, 21 going up the inside as well. The 21 car sticks the move, same with the 5, and still 2x2 at the minute. It's like watching Noah's Ark in motor form, as we see the number 5 now towards the outside line. Same for the 21. The 130 car does get in front. That's Nigel Stock, sitting in P6 at the moment, has the inside advantage again once more. Same with who's that? Jason Landry. We can see Landry does have that inside line. Maintains it. A bit of a squirrel out of the corner there, but nothing that he can't handle, as Andreasen looks to put him under pressure once more. Swooping up onto the inside. There's contact there. That's taken out 2 or 3 cars. That's Mikael Andreasen that's gone out, and same for the 130 of Nigel Stock, unfortunately, as well. It looks like Andreasen straight into the pits. And even though it looks like Nigel Stock had the worst damage, look at that front end compared to this front end, and I think they need to switch roles. I think it should have been Nigel Stock that went into the pits and Andreasen carried on. However, he's carrying on at the moment, and as things stand, obviously the silver win is going to fall the way of Nigel Stock at the moment, unless Shane Piggott and his pace has anything to do with it, because well, the position isn't off the cards just yet. Reece Saunders at the moment looking up the inside of Dan Morey. As you can see, that number 8 does get himself well and truly ahead by the time they're into the braking zone for the corner, and he's taking the lead nice and easily there. So switch round of your leader then. Reece Saunders, P8, sorry, I keep doing that, car number 8, and P1 at the moment then. And there you can see at the top of your screen the leaders for both the classes. Obviously there aren't many silvers out there, however the lead does stand with Nigel Stock. We do have Reece Saunders obviously leading not only the overall race but his class as well. As that car, number 8 car there, does need to do some defending before the end of this race. And remember, with 50 minutes of this yet to come as well in a separate race after this sprint, there's a lot still to play for, and there's a lot of high value points as well to get. Obviously could be a prime opportunity to bag some points for a crucial moment in the latter part of the season. So Nigel Stock has now taken to the pits, which means a change of the lead for the silver group. That is now Shane Piggott leading the way, but Nigel Stock has come out with a fresh set of wheels. He's a brand new car. Look, that wing has been replaced and fixed, so he'll be looking to try and take that P1 spot back, but he's 7.5 seconds down the road, so he really doesn't need to try and pick some speed up quickly, get those tyres back up to temperature and chase down Piggott as soon as possible. As we see, Bonnie just in behind as well, looking to possibly try and formulate a move of himself. As we can see, coming down to the 100 board now. Crowd up there on the hill, watching down. In a lovely hot country compared to the UK. Fantastic place for some of this racing, because it does make it interesting for open wheelers as well with these hot countries. Certainly has an effect on these tyres, a little more than what it would elsewhere. Looks like the front nose of that 81 is still a little bent up actually, so possibly had a little collision or two on that one there. You see a bit of paint scuff on the orange of that livery. Mikel Andreasen isn't far away from being introduced into this group now. He is here on your screen at the moment, 8 tenths behind Bonnie. Here's someone that's trying to formulate a move as well. Car number 4 trying to get that lead back. As we see here, James Parker, P3, in a bit of a no man's land spell at the moment. Plenty of room in front, plenty of room behind. Settling for a podium at the moment as well. See if he can improve on those positions. But I feel like it would come down towards the final few minutes between Shane Piggott and Nigel Stock. As you can see, Nigel has taken away 2 seconds. Taken away 2 seconds to Shane Piggott. So the battle for the lead of the Silvers is on. The chase is on. And it's going to be tense now coming into the final few moments. Or, well, the second half of this race, shall I say. For Shane Piggott, he's going to be looking in his mirrors, I imagine, fairly soon. As that time will start creeping down again. You see the lap times coming in there. There's a lot of 38.7s. $140.333 for Glenn Humberstone. There is Glenn and around at the minute, P5, just ahead of the 2 silvers. And Maury looking for a move now, around a 10th apart. And, well, they're not going to be apart at all at this next turn, as they're going to be side by side leading into it, into the braking zone. Number 4 does take the inside line, plenty of space between the two. And a lovely, easy move there for the number 4 to push up into P1. So new leader once more of Dan Maury. Now 4.8 seconds splits the gap between Nigel Stock and Shane Piggott. So that is still coming down. So keep your eyes peeled, folks. It's not going to be long till we see a battle going on there, I imagine. And the guys towards the rear of the pack still find it out, but at the minute sitting equidistant from each other, and no one seems to really be taking that extra little risk to try and close the gap to the car ahead. And just so I say that, Mikel Andreasen capitalising a little bit there on a mistake from Bonnie, a little bit of a lock-up, nothing too major, and manages to close the gap ever so slightly. And just so I say that, Rhys Saunders once again looking to get right onto the rear end of that number 4. The battle for the lead carries on once more. Only a few tenths between these two, and it looks like Mikel Andreasen, he was out, but it looks like he's back now. For a split moment there, it said that he was out and in the pit, but seems to sort itself out now. Possibly a connection issue. That is one thing we do have here with sim racing. We do have some connection botches. Whether that be from a broadcasting point of view, a racing point of view, or even sometimes collisions as well. Collisions can be caused by poor network. All these different things do play into one another, unfortunately. Oh, you can see the gaps are starting to split up now, big time. As we're about to tuck into the last 7 minutes of this race. Now, if you look at it, 8 laps so far, 8 laps within 13 minutes. So, you think about it, we're not going to see a ton of laps in the 50-minute race. But the easy thing to work out, we're going to see probably around the mid-20s, I imagine, for the amount of laps in this second race this evening. As we look through the grid in just a moment, the battle starting to spice up just ever so slightly between the two leaders. The gap was 3/10, and that's been halved just like that. Snap of the fingers, and these two are close together once more. You can see James Parker just trying to clutch onto the back of these cars at the moment, around a second away. Wishing this was Formula 1. Open up that DRS and get involved. You can see there the gap between all those cars, and let's have a little look now. 3 seconds between our battles for the silver group. See, there's Jason Landry. Car number 5. Currently sitting P4. Had a steady race this far. Has been in amongst it though. Glenn Humberstone up 4 positions. So a solid race for him this far as well. 6.6 off the car ahead, which is Jason Landry. And just as I say that, we'll have to go back to Reece Saunders, because a couple of attempts is all that splits those top 2 once more. And I think it's going to be like this all the way to the very end. While those two do battle it out a little more. Nigel Stock, P7 at the moment. Looking to close that gap ever so slightly, just to get within fighting range. Hasn't got much time to do it, but that time is coming down. It's now 2.8 seconds, and I can tell you this, to someone on iRacing, that's very, very close. So it's not far at all. Probably got just enough time to try and get up there as well. And Mikael Andreasen does come into the pit this time round. Is that going to be just for a possible drive through for any reason, or is this going to be a stop and retirement? And that was for a drive through. He's carried on out the other side, and while he's doing that, down the way, Reece Saunders still neck and neck at the moment. I thought I just saw a switch around her name, so don't believe so. I think I'm losing the plot. Wouldn't surprise me. We'll show up your battle box there in the bottom right hand corner. You can see the amount of positions gained and lost from the drivers there, with the red and the green arrows with the numbers next to them. I'll tell you how many positions they've either gained or surrendered during this session. And it's very large this week, but there is your track map. We will just close the sponsors down just for a moment. And that gives you a rough idea on how spread out things are at the moment. P6, 7 and 8 quite close together. It's probably not going to be long until those guys do actually tuck in for a close battle. As you see P1 and 2 on top of each other. And just like I say that, we've got a bit of side-by-side action. And once again, lead has swapped once more. And, well, Reece Saunders and Dan Moore really can't decide on who's going to take this one. But they need to just keep an eye on their mirrors as they come around, because James Parker is starting to sneak up on the rear end of this battle. Now this is the view from James Parker. This is the onboard view from the Halo cam. And as you can see, a little bit wide there onto the gravel. But he's ever so close to the battle now. He's looking for moves up the inside, possibly trying to get these guys to worry a little bit maybe, and put them into a bit of doubt, maybe cause or force a mistake to go under the bridge through into turn 1 now on the rear end. So this is what it comes down to. The quickest lap has been set by James Parker, and he's going for a move up the inside. He holds the inside line very well indeed, as he's unfortunately not able to conclude it, and still has to settle for that P3. But with the quickest lap of the session so far, all that momentum, that's surely got to count for something, as I'm sure he will be loving this at the moment. An amazing comeback drive from being a considerable amount of time down. He's managed to catch up while these guys are battling, which has obviously played in his favour quite some margin. And now he's going to be looking at moving up the places. I thought he was going to go into the rear of Dan Moore there, but he managed to get the car stopped in time and carries on. Just tucked in behind P2 at the minute. Now they've got to be careful, because if they start battling, that's going to be it. The race is handed to Reece Saunders, because Maury and Parker will be battling it out for that P2. And everyone knows that when you start battling someone, you start losing time. In most cases anyway. So this is going to be an interesting situation as we are into the last 30 seconds now. I believe the white flag, if it isn't already out at the moment, it certainly will be this time round. Once more, James Parker, this is his view. You can see there, we've got double Barney. Lap times have come round. Even though we have double Barney, no flag that time. Well, I couldn't see. I saw a hand go up though, so we're going to assume it is white flag, and that the flag just didn't, for whatever reason, show. Maybe he just didn't pick his flag up and put his arm up instead. But the battle for the top 3 is well and truly on. 6 tenths between all 3 cars in total. And this is now what it all comes down to. The last lap of the session, last lap of the race. 2 Altitude Esport liveries in front at the moment. Car number 8, number 4, and followed by the number 20, who's all over the place in the background, just trying to put these drivers off, looking for a way to get around, trying to get that pass done. It's not going to be an easy job whatsoever, however. He's doing well this far. He's still got a few corners to make up his mind, possibly try and go for a dive if he feels he needs to. He might be happy to settle for that P3, knowing that he's got the quickest lap. Deep down, he might know he's faster, so he might just be settling this race and focus on the second one. But this has been some great stuff so far this evening. First race, plenty of overtakes and switches of the lead between the front 2, and he has backed off ever so slightly. There's now 1.5 between them, and is that potentially a run out of fuel moment? I think it could be. Potentially. It's very, very slow as Reece Saunders does come across the line by the looks of it in P1. He certainly will, and just behind by a 10th is P2 of Dan Moore. Now what's happened with Parker here? Is Parker out of fuel? That's the question. Car seems to be sort of like bouncing around quite a lot, and I don't think the pit lane's that bumpy. He's finished in P3 in the pits, so he managed to finish the race in that podium spot. Then across the line, Glenn Humberstone. Jason Landry was the next one across the line. Shane Piggott has done extremely well to do just enough to keep his car ahead. As Nigel Stock, unfortunately, 1.5 tenths behind, so he wasn't able to gain that lead back of the Silvers. And potentially fuel loss there for Bonnie as well. As Andreasen takes the position, P8 now for Andreasen. So he comes flying around the final corner up to the start-finish line. There it goes across the line. So what's happening here with Bonnie then? I think for Bonnie it is a case of fuel by the looks of it. He is going around, so he's not pitting. But when I say he's going around, he is absolutely crawling at the moment. It does sound a bit like a splutter engine there. I think it is going to be a fuel situation. And we're possibly going to be looking at a DNF. As the car really does come to a slow halt. It's still rolling though, so we won't write the cards off just yet. However, I don't think it's going to matter because he's going to finish in the same position regardless. However, I'm sure getting over the line is the main focus at the moment. See the tyres still rolling. There is nothing left in the car. This is a very, very intense final lap. This could well be the quickest lap we've ever seen at Jerez. It's going to be very intense. There's only, what, 1 minute 16 to the car ahead technically, and unfortunately he didn't make it across the line. Devastating stuff. Absolutely devastating. As we'll bring you your results here in just a moment. Taking a minute for them to process because I think the stewards are all busy trying to take that car off of the starting grid that's just been left there. There we go. So the results are up. Rhys Saunders finished P1, Dan Murray P2, Glenn Humberstone P3, Jason Landry P4, Shane Piggott P5, Nigel Stock P6, James Parker P7, Mikael Andreasen P8, Isamo. I keep saying it the wrong way around. Massimo Bonnie in P9. And then we got Ian Craigle, who didn't get out there, in P10. So those are your results for that first race. Now what we're going to do is pop to our start screen once more while we wait for the second race, and the commentary will resume then for the 50-minute. Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're not going to go by that for the grid. What I'll do is I'll read out the grid as best as I can. We'll wait for the racing to get going, because unfortunately with these reverse grids, these overlays do not like it. As we wait here for the cars to get underway. Obviously missing that car on the first spot, and that is Iron Craigle, who's out of the session. And here is where the order starts to mix around and change. As we see, I see him with Bonnie conceding a position early on, and instantly a spin for Dan Morey, car number 4, who's unfortunately found himself, technically speaking, last place of the cars that are running now, already 10 odd seconds behind the pack. Unfortunately, Bonnie losing that early position to Mikael Andreasen, who got a good start, and a fantastic move into the first corner to maintain that lead. But they do have to be careful, because this man is out for revenge after the first race where he was so close to getting higher up on that podium. He's now finding himself in P3 once again, and I'm sure he's going to want to look higher if possible. This is the best night for these racers to pick up a win, and because there's a lot less cars up there, a lot less carnage. So it's probably going to be their best opportunity. There's a slight inside lock up there for the 81. Nothing too dangerous there. Manages to keep the car going nicely, as the number 20 of James Parker does look to go up the inside line of the 81. Doesn't manage to hold it, and does back out in the end. Settles for that P3 once more. Looking a bit further back at the moment. Reece Saunders looking up the inside of... who is that on the outside? That is Jason Landry, who does have his nose in front at the moment, does the number 5. Manages to keep that pace on the exit of the corner, and keeps his car placed on the inside line there at 42.599, quickest lap. As we see the single file traffic now starting to reveal itself, and Mikael Andreasen, I thought, potentially had an issue there, but I think it was again just a connection situation. As we see Bonnie and Parker going to go side by side now. The 81 on the outside line for the next turn. The advantage does fall in for this man here, James Parker. And again, a slight bit of smoke from it. Quick little lock up there of the wheels for the 81. But that car, number 20, has got that position sorted. Now it's P2, so Parker will be pleased, because that's one place higher than the last race. So the question is, can Parker go for the win? The pace was certainly there in the latter minutes of that race. We saw a few moments ago. But it is a long race, remember. We're only 3 minutes into this 50-minute race. There's a car going wide there. That's Shane Piggott, who unfortunately has gone so far wide. He rejoins at the back of the pack. And he's going to find himself a little way down, as well as Reece Saunders also goes off into the gravel, rejoins, and almost sends it into a 3-wide battle, as it does fall in side by side with the number 5 there straight away. And once again, forming a Noah's Ark type strategy here. And these guys are going to go side by side. You can see the amount of dust coming up there, still just flying off of the number 8 car, and there's massive chaos there in the background. So the car's absolutely flying across the screen. That is Glenn Humpstone and Nigel Stock. Unfortunately, Nigel Stock not having the brightest of nights here tonight. Things haven't really aligned for him on the track. Certainly got some good pace. However, the luck is not in Stock's favour. But that brings Dan Morey into the mix then. He was quite far back originally. He's still not too close to the main pack, which is the gaggle of cars up here towards the top end of the field. However, he's not going to be far off once he starts getting into the draft and getting these overtakes nailed. He's not going to be far off whatsoever. As we see Bonnie settling for P3 at the moment. Just trying to get into that groove in this single file traffic then. As you can see there, just as I say that, the groove has been lost as number 5, Jason Landry, does make the overtake and now sitting in P3. Going to have to opt for the inside line though, because Bonnie did get a fantastic exit out there. They're going to be side by side, and Bonnie into the gravel. Bonnie's gone off as well. That's another car off, and that's into the barrier for Bonnie. Unfortunately, that looks like some bad damage. You can see the rods there bent on the front left wheel, and I think that car's potentially beached as well. That's not steering right at all, that car. And unfortunately, that will be Bonnie out of the race, and I think, yep, Glenn Humberstone is now into the pits as well. So Bonnie's going to have to wait for a tow and then get that repair sorted. Humberstone into the pits. Maury P7 just behind Nigel Stott. So Nigel Stott's going to have some fun defending to do here very, very shortly. So we've seen some high-flying incidents so far in this second race. And we've actually lost Bonnie completely. Glenn Humberstone is out there on course at the moment. He's returned as we see the number 4 now putting the pressure on to Nigel Stott. Is he going to go for the move? Is Stott going to let him have it? And he's certainly gone for it, and the 130's just let him on by. Not worth fighting too much over. Also, you've got to remember Dan Moore is a very quick driver, so it'd be good just to get behind him and see if you can follow his line, get in his groove, copy him lap for lap, because if you can, I tell you what, you'll be fighting up there in no time. As we come back towards this group, it's a grouping of cars that have been together for a decent amount of time now. And just like I say that, we've got number 8 going into the pits at the moment then. That's Reece Saunders. Pit stop for Reece Saunders. And just like I say that, yeah, it sounded like Shane Piggott had spun out on the final turn. Gets going again. Just avoids the barrier there. My luck, if I'd done that, my tyres would have slipped and I'd have gone straight into the barrier. Reece Saunders, once again, moving in the pits. And there's green cone. Limiter is now off. He's got to get back up to speed and as quickly as possible as well. Cal Andreasen trying to latch onto the back of Jason Landry's car and doing so very well at the moment. Staying within 2 to 3 tenths of the car ahead, which is prime position to be in really, because if you can get a good exit out of the corner and they don't, well, that's going to shape up that straight for some beautiful opportunities with overtaking. As we can see at the moment, let's get your classes up there. So your class leaders, James Park obviously leading the gold class and the race at the moment, and then we've got Nigel Stott currently P5 overall but leading the silvers at the moment. Now don't forget, let's go over the colours on the left hand side. So if you've forgotten from last week, or maybe you weren't here last week and you didn't hear me talk about them, you see the gold colour, which is majority of the drivers out there on course tonight, is the gold class, gold tier. And then the silver / grey looking ones are the silver class as well. So only 2 classes in this series at the moment. I believe there is space for a bronze, but only a gold and silver is needed at this moment in time. And you can see at the top of your screen there, we do have Parker leading the golds, and we have Nigel Stott leading the silvers. Now obviously if you are a silver racer this race, that is great, because you're guaranteed to get some good points. However, if you're part of the gold team, unfortunately it hasn't benefited you as much. Nevertheless, you're still going to get some good points due to the lower numbers. You're guaranteed a top 10 finish anyway, or top 9 to be precise, as Iron Craig was not here. And Bonnie is now out of the session completely, so it's actually 8 cars remaining on the course. So with only 8 cars here now racing around, there really are some good points out there up for grabs. As you see Mikel Andreasen tapping the dirt there on the exit as he comes into the braking zone, shifts down, and that completes the first 10 minutes. His lap has gone in from Jason Landry, possibly going to be putting some pressure on Parker here very, very shortly. See, that time is coming down. Well, it was just a second ago. That turn 1 really did work out in Landry's favour. Possibly found a quicker line, or even just a quicker way to get through the corner itself. As you can see, this is the thing with longer races. The gaps do open up fairly quickly, but you're never to write off the drivers that are on track, because even though the gaps were quite large a minute or so ago, you know, we've now got an orange time in the top left corner and a yellow as well, so they do close up. And if there's a driver that's consistently better than another car, they will eventually get on to the rear end of that thing. Sometimes drivers are good at one part of the track and then bad at another, so it really does chop and change all the time. So that's one thing to keep your eye out on these longer races, and not only that, it's who's managing the tyres well enough, and who's going to be able to push that little bit extra towards the latter stages of the race. 139 flat for James Parker, 138.442 for Landry, and a 140.392 for Mikel Andreasen. Dan Morey going quick as well, 138.898. So great lap time there. Another 140, another 141 as well. 138.6 for Reece Saunders. So that's a great lap from Reece as well. Now remember, the top cars that we saw last race was James Parker, who's currently leading the race. He was P3 last time out. Darren Morey and Reece Saunders all fighting it out for the lead last race. And that lead really did come down to the wire eventually as well, with 2 of the top 3 cars split by a 1/10.5. We're now approaching on to the 13th minute of 50. So we are now roughly similar laps to the first race in terms of us talking about how long the second race will be. So we're coming up to doing the same time as we saw in race 1 in total. And the gaps are an awful lot more spaced out in this race at this time round. Jump to an onboard view of our number 5 here, chasing the lead. See if we can pick them up within the next few corners potentially. You see the gap is quite small between the 2 cars, and that will close up, that will extend out as well. And it's all about nailing those apexes and exits, as the spotters tend to say, with good old crew chief. So in the case of keeping the eyes peeled for this battle then. See the helmet and the visor getting dirty there in the mirror on the right hand side of your screen. 4/10 split the top two at the moment. It's not coming down just yet, but it's not going to be far away at all. We see Reece Saunders has got the jump on Shane Piggott. Now Shane Piggott only dropped one position from that move. So nothing too daunting for him, but that 133 car does need to just find a couple of tenths from somewhere. Just keep on the back of Reece Saunders, who's a quick driver. Is now going to be attacking the Nigel Stock any moment here as well. As you can see how close they get into the braking zone. That's the difference between braking early and braking late. That has absolutely smothered Nigel Stock's rear end there. Reece Saunders does look up the inside line and gets the move done nice and easily as well. Maintains that inside, and now look at the space between the two. Gone up the road straight away. Ever so light on the brakes and pulling away once more for the number 8. Slight bit of sausage curb there. That's great racing from all these racers in general. That's a fantastic bit of action between car number 8 and car number 130, sorry. And just to mention as well, he may have been overtaken by Reece Saunders just a moment ago, but Nigel Stock, the 130 car, currently leading the way for the Silver Group. So he's P6 overall, however he is P1 for his class. So P2 just being in behind him, not too far away, but too far at the minute for any form of attack. Nothing to worry about for him just yet. Jason Landry just on the rear end of Parker at the moment. I think this is going to be very similar to what we saw in race 1, where these cars are going to be close to the rear end of each other for the majority of the session. With the gap coming down to all of a tenth or two between the top two racers. This adds a bit of spice into roughly around the middle of this race now. Approaching the 20th minute of 50. So another 5 and we're at the halfway point. But this does have a very endurance feel about it, with these cars very much spaced out big time between each other. It is now going to be about consistency rather than posting quick lap here and there. It's going to be about find your target pace, aim for your target number, and just maintain it all throughout the race. That's going to be the trickiest part for some. And into the pits goes James Parker then. Let's see how quick this pit stop is, as Landry just goes straight past. So it's coming in to the pit now. Also remember on iRacing he can see his pit crew. We won't be able to see them, so he will just stop in a random location any moment now. He will get the fuel on board, get the things he needs, and then crack on with it. So that was a very quick stop indeed. On the pit exit and straight out once more. There goes the car number 8 of Reece Saunders, and James Parker finds himself just in behind there. Now obviously if he can unleash that pace again that we saw in race 1, he'll be able to catch up to the back of Reece Saunders, and then he can do one of two things. He can fuel save, or he can use Reece Saunders to drag him along the track just a little bit and possibly work together, and he can start gaining some time on Jason Landry there, because obviously Jason Landry at the minute is purely in no man's land. He's got no one in front of him because he currently leads the race, does the car number 5, and 11 seconds behind him, nearly 12 seconds behind, is Mikel Andreasen, and Mikel has his own worries, and that is Dan Mori. So he's got plenty of time to focus on himself. However, he doesn't have a draft option should he want it. Whereas this man, he certainly will, if he's able to find that little extra speed. Then he will be able to use that to his advantage massively there. Now we do have pit lane for the top 3, and these guys side by side as they come into the pits then. So both Maury and Andreasen side by side in the pits. There goes your leader. Landry now leaving. Now where's Parker going to come out at? I think he's going to come out just ahead. In fact, no, he's not. He's not. He's been jumped in the pits. So Jason Landry has had a better pit stop than James Parker. So that leaves Parker now P3. Remember, this car here, Reece Saunders, does have to pit currently as well, I believe. Let's have a little look. In fact, no, he doesn't. That's everyone has pitted once. Everyone has now got one pit stop each. And majority of cars had been into the pits and got their pit stop done that last lap, so all their lap times are considerably high. And the only person who didn't have a high lap time that time round was Reece Saunders, who's currently on your screen. But let's have a little look at some of the pit lane times. So the pit lane times are going to be as follows. I'm going to run through them all for you, and you can then see them from there. So 34.52 seconds for the car on screen at the moment, Reece Saunders. Then we have 36.06 for Jason Landry, 36.90 for James Parker, and we have a 36.72 for this man here, which is Dan Maury. And then scrolling down again, Mikel Andreasen on 25.3. So a lightning quick stop there for Mikel. 38.48 for Glenn Humberstone. And Nigel Stock 38.78. So not much between those two whatsoever. 3/10 in fact between those two exactly. Shane Piggott. Well, Shane, fantastic from you. 38.06 and a 12.56 for Massimo Boni, who unfortunately is no longer out there on the course at the moment. So not too bad pit stops all around. But these guys doing an absolutely fantastic job at the moment to keep this action going, as we do see the P7 of Nigel Stock just getting onto the back of Glenn Humberstone. And Nigel Stock is winning his class as well. As we've just ticked on to the halfway mark in this race now. 25 minutes gone out of 50. And unfortunately down to only 8 cars now. 8 cars left on the grid. See Nigel Stock still cutting away at the time to Humberstone just ahead. He's got to be careful. Got to pick the right time to make his move. And is it going to be now? It certainly is going to be now, as Nigel Stock gets by and Glenn Humberstone enters the pit lane. So good old pit time for Humberstone. As we look towards James Parker then. James Parker not too far off the car ahead. And that will be Jason Landry, who's just in front. And not only just in front, but looking hopeful to defend that position as well. See in a minute, car number 20 right onto the back of Jason Landry now. Any attempt to split him into the braking zone there, but a little bit harder on the brakes for the number 20. Just put a tiny little bit of space between the two, a little bit extra than what was hoped. But a move looking likely down the straight then. And side by side through the corner. And side by side once more. It's a good thing about most of the Jerez track. You can make a move, and then the moment you've made a move, all of a sudden, when you think you're free, you're side by side again into the next corner. So it's very much a fast flowing circuit. But it is a fantastic circuit for some racing nonetheless. Plenty of space as well for these Formula 4s to fly around and try and maximise that grip on those tyres. Nope. And we do have a little bit of blinking going on once again from James Parker at the minute, who is your current leader of the race. Car number 20. Leading away with only a few tenths between him and Jason Landry now. Unfortunately, Mikel Andreasen not having the best of times right now. I have reports that he did have a crash. He was off track, managed to come back on track again eventually. It's not been the ideal situation for him. Being, if I'm not mistaken, the only Dane out there on the course as well this evening. Not only this evening, I think potentially on the grid as well. Good varied, good variety of countries on display, not only in this race but a few of the other races of Next Gen as well. There's plenty of people from all around the world that do come together, take part in some fantastic races. As we dip into the last 20 minutes now of this 50-minute endurance race. It feels like an endurance race in these cars, especially with open wheel layouts and how the car feels. It definitely does feel like an endurance with the way these cars act, especially once those tyres get a bit worn and a bit too high in the old temperature field. It can things can get a little interesting out there, let's just say that, as we will be approaching those sort of minutes when we hit that 40 mark. When we're into the last 10 minutes, that's when things will get a little bit tight, a little bit tense. And it will push things down to the wire as well between these guys. Only 4/10 split in the two cars now, without a pit stop to the end of the race. We are going to be looking at a close finish, providing there are no mistakes, and that's going to be a big ask as well, because there's still a good amount of laps to go, and still plenty of time for things to either go extremely right or extremely wrong. So we all need to keep our eyes peeled, but not only that, these drivers really do need to try and keep their concentration as best as they possibly can. Up around the final corner. That'll put our leader onto lap number 20 for car number 20. There he goes around once more. 138.9. Now we have just under 18 minutes to go, and gap is stretched out by a 10th or two. If Parker can keep this going for a couple of laps, then we could be looking to a second plus gap between P1 and P2. Not going to be easy though, and he's not going to make it easier for him, is Landry. Just I say that in one turn, lost 0.2 of a second, but on the exit, much quicker, and has gained that time back, so it's not lost yet. It's still well and truly on. It seems like this battle has been going on forever between these two. Let's check in with some of the other racers then. So we've got Dan Mori at the moment, currently sitting in that last podium spot there. P3 for car number 4. Reece Saunders not too far away, possibly looking at a battle impending here. Kel Andreasen just in behind in P5. You see him now coming up to that final corner. And Nigel Stock also doing the same, not too far away. Exactly the same for Shane Pigott as he comes around then as well. We've got Glenn Humberstone a little further back, 25 seconds to the car ahead. So possibly a P8 finish for Glenn Humberstone, unless he can pull out some extreme pace from now till the end. Possibly try and get himself back in it, but he would need to be knocking off just over a second a lap. which is not going to be an easy thing to do, especially with how flowing this track actually is. These guys really can push these cars to its limit, and it's not as easy to catch people as what you may think. It really would take something special to try and catch up that quickly. Just under 4/10 split the top two, and just as I say that, Jason Landry comes into the pits. Now let's watch this pit lane entry. Very slow. In fact, he came to a full stop as Landry hit the pit lane cone, pit lane marker. It's normally where people put their limiter on. However, Jason Landry wanted to possibly test it or push himself to the limit, maybe gone slightly over the limit, and that's why he came to a full stop. But that's not the common thing to do on those markers. And now, just as we think things are starting to come together and possibly get a little bit more intense, pit stop obviously has to intervene and things space out once more. So James Parker leading the race at the moment, 16.2 seconds behind is P2 of Dan Morey, and the number 8 car just in behind that as well, Reece Saunders. Just under a second to Dan Morey then ahead. Now he is really going to be within that slipstream range. I'm sure that's what he's going to try and capitalise on, to try and pull Dan Morey in. Are we going to see any elite swerving up the straights? As I'm sure a lot of you will know, a few large names that tend to like to weave to break the toe. Fantastic lines though all night between these two. Reece Saunders and Dan Morey. Symmetrical racing. Cannot tell the difference between the two. If it wasn't for the numbers, you'd think it's the same person. Seem to be absolutely smashing this track though at the moment, as that time doesn't look to be going down very much, if at all, between Dan Morey and James Parker. So James Parker managing to copy the pace of Morey. However, he won't have to do that too much longer. He might be able to ease off just ever so slightly, as we're about to see Dan Morey and Reece Saunders come into battle, potentially, unless there's a little bit of helping going on here. Who knows? As car number 8 does take that advantage away from Dan Morey and now finds himself in P2. So it's P2 for Reece Saunders. To come over the rumble strips into the final turn. You can see how far over you can actually get on this circuit as well. So plenty of space in and around the course. Got to make full use of it. And that's exactly what they have done. So we now see 6/10 is all that splits those two in the battle for P2. And I think that is going to be the highest it's going to go. Next, James Parker has a horrendous mistake towards the final stages here of the race. I think this is all wrapped up and it's going to be given as a present to James Parker. Early Halloween gift there for him. It certainly wasn't a trick, it definitely was a treat, as car number 20 seems to be sailing away with it, unless a pit stop does intervene, but that is the only way really that James Parker is going to lose such a big gap. Even if there's a spin out, potentially going to rejoin and get back on circuit, depending on how bad it is, before those pass him. But just like saying that, the pit lane does strike. Now the question is, how quick is this pit going to be? We're already seeing Parker get in amongst it with Landry in terms of the pit times. Let's see if that's going to happen again. See Reece Saunders and Maury go around one more time. Here is Jason Landry then. Now going up the home straight. Pit exit for Parker. Is it going to be enough? I don't think it is. Oh, it might just be, you know. They're going to come out side by side. 20 and the number 5 do come out side by side. It's James Parker settling for 4th at the moment, but now in that podium spot, it's just in front of him, and he could get the advantage over Jason Landry. I'm sure he's going to try and throw everything at it and gain that position, but he needs to bring those tyres up to temperature as soon as possible. They're not quite going to be peak temperature straight away. It's going to take a little bit to get them there, but not too much. So maybe after one whole lap, then they should be fine and prime to go. We'll find out here very soon, I imagine, when these guys start battling. Let's see who loses grip and who's able to hold on, because we don't know. One of them could be running newer tyres. I find it unlikely, but you never know with these races. It's a good thing about endurance races, whether they're real endurance races or they feel like endurance races, like with the open wheel cars. Anything over half an hour feels a bit like an endurance race in a way, with how much muscle and strength you need to actually put in turning these cars and getting them to move. However, like I said before, you never know who's running new sets of tyres, and you can never bank on your opponent having more or less grip than you. It's a guess that's not worth guessing. May as well just put your foot down, get your head down, and see if you can get the job done. Move up position, move up the field, carry on about your day. As we do see Mikel Andreasen also entering the pits now. Stop near the front as well. And he's already on the pit exit, so that's how quick that stop was. 1:57.2. As well, we are now into our last 7 minutes of the race, so not long left for these guys to try and pull something out the bag. This is the battle for P1 and P2. Dan Maury has dropped off time ever so slightly though. Time's going up between those top two. Nearly a second between them as we approach the final corner here. And that is in the pits for Dan Maury, number 4. I'm guessing he knew he was going to be coming in this lap, so he's taking it a bit easy. And, now he needs to just keep his foot planted when he releases out of the pits and gets going. Let's get around this track as quickly as possible to try and get some of those positions back. As we see Nigel Stock entering the pits now as well. There is Nigel. You can't really see him just yet. He's hiding behind the pillar. He's coming out now. There he is. The 130 there, Nigel Stock. Currently leading your silver class as well. Shane Piggott. If he has anything to say about that, it's going to be in amongst it in a moment as well. It's Nigel Stock now on the pit exit. But I don't know if he's going to be out in time. Oh, he certainly will be, as he's already over the dotted line, back onto the course, and back under racing conditions once more. We have just dipped into our last 5 minutes of the racing session. So that means that anyone coming in for a pit stop now, if any, are all coming in for a splash and dash, and that's going to be their lot. If they've managed to make their fuel last till now, that's pretty impressive stuff. Never know. See at the minute, Nigel Stock being the closest car to anyone else out on track at the moment. We can see only 6/10 split these two. Nigel Stock desperately trying to close that gap to Andreasen just ahead. Approach the last few minutes of this race now. This time really has come down between these two, so it could come down to the wire for this battle for P5. Doesn't sound like a big battle for these guys, but remember, this is gold versus silver. So they're not fighting for class position, they're fighting for overall position only. Car behind being Nigel Stock, that's the yellow car of focus at the moment, and the orange and black ahead of him is the orange and black of Andreasen there, Cal Andreasen. Only a 10th split the two cars at the moment. There's a chance for that to get even lower or switch of positions. There isn't much time left to get that move done whatsoever. Those Glenn Humberstone now finds himself into the pit lane. And on to the pit exit now as well. Nice quick pit stop for him. 2 attempts is all that splits these two cars at the moment. Possibly looking for a move up the inside for the 130. Maintains the inside line nicely there and sticks it at the moment. Remember, it's a double right-hander, so got the inside once again and got the position as well. And just as he's made that fantastic move, Mikel Andreasen has had to come into the pits. As we now look towards your leader, Reece Saunders, who's had a fantastic race this far. Been very much up and down the grid and towards the back of the grid tonight as well. It's not all been plain sailing here for Mr. Saunders. However, it certainly will feel that way at the moment in the final stages of this final race this evening. Spectacular performance from everyone that was involved here tonight as well. So big shout out to all the drivers. Even though there wasn't a ton of people on this circuit, it certainly was quality stuff, as Reece Saunders does take that P1 spot and comes across the line with that race win. P2 there for Jason Landry. Again, a great race for Jason there. Some top quality stuff and good pace overall as well. James Parker in behind in P3. I'll wait for the rest of the cars to come across the line before we bring you your full results for this second race of the evening. 50 minutes of racing for the Formula 4s as well. And well, what 50 minutes it has been. Sometimes where things have gone a little quiet and maybe the racing wasn't the edge of the seat stuff, but nonetheless it did come down to the wire for some of those races, and this is one of the things that happens with a slightly smaller grid as well. But it's critical that you do turn up to these, because for those drivers that have turned up with this small grid, maximum points to them, as they will make away with a good portion of points here for the championship this evening. So your results then for that feature race was as follows: Reece Saunders P1, Jason Landry P2, James Parker P3, and we have Dan Morey P4. Nigel Stock finished P5, but P1 for his class. Shane Piggott P2 in his class, but P6 overall. Mikel Andreasen P7, Glenn Humberstone P8, Massimo Boni in P9, and Ian Craigle in P10. So those were your results there, ladies and gentlemen, and that brings us to the end of this evening's racing at Circuito de Jerez. It has been a great evening of racing, in my opinion. Some quieter times and some heated times, and obviously we've had some big collisions here this evening as well. Some cars gone absolutely flying, so definitely some learning curves for some of the drivers out there, but these are things that they'll take into the next round with them, and they'll come back stronger than ever before. But before we go, don't forget, if you want to get yourselves involved either in this series or another series, or just fancy like chatting to any of the drivers or the guys behind the scenes that make things work and happen at NextGen, feel free to do so. Join their Discord. It'll be attached to descriptions, links, and all social medias will be posted as well that you may need. But I hope you all have enjoyed this evening, and we look forward to seeing you next week out. Round 3 for the Formula 4 Next Gen Championship. Look forward to see you then, but until then, thank you and goodbye.